Yeah, I think when it comes to online is that there's that whole I'm technophobic or I'm not tech
Mm.
savvy, and we are going through this divide in the industry. And it's one thing I noticed a lot when I first came in, like with the mentoring and stuff like that, was because people just immediately took on this whole I can't do tech.
Mm.
That's what it was. It was just this
I
whole
so agree with you on
stigma,
this. I
you
absolutely
know?
agree with you. I
Yeah.
like the whole reason why I set up Recording Hypnotherapists was because of the fact that I kept hearing people say, um, I'm not, I don't do technology. I struggle with technology.
Yeah, yeah,
And, I
yeah.
keep saying there's this irony of people, want to be hypnotherapists to help people overcome their limiting beliefs. And yet
Yeah.
here they are saying, I don't do technology.
Yeah,
I can't
and
deal with it.
it's the same old metaphor that one pill does not cure all diseases.
Hmm.
So judging one piece of technology on a bad experience is not going to help any situation. And the best tech advice that I keep telling everybody is just read the screen,
Yeah.
because it's all written there. Like, and most of us are just going, no, I can't be bothered, or we've just put up this mental block immediately going, nah, I
Too
cannot do
hard.
this. It's
Too
just too
hard.
hard. It
And why do
really
I need
is.
to know this is another one that I get.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing also for me personally, like from what I have come across, is that we have a huge divide in generations. So we've got my generation and older. I had a Nokia phone, one of the original mobile
Yeah,
phones
the
was
bricks.
the brick. It
Yeah,
was
I
the
had a
size
brick.
of the brick.
Yeah.
And we only bought it because we lived in rural Australia. So it took 3 to 4 hours to drive anywhere. And if we got stuck, we were in trouble. So that's the
Mm.
only reason why we bought it. And then you had the whole antenna and, you get reception and stuff like that. So, for the Nokia to come out, that was like, oh my gosh, this thing is like gotten smaller.
Mm.
And I remember I was actually one of the first people in Haywood in Victoria to get on online banking. And my mother said to me, no, don't do that, because she still had like the book and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, no, Mum, this is the way of the future. And then I was actually one of the first people to have an eBay shop when that first launched back when
Wow.
I was
Okay.
18 years old. I just jumped straight onto it. And I was a whole, like, I'd go around to op shops and buy stuff and then resell it. Like, so I've created that horrible part there, but
Mm.
that's what you did back then.
Yep.
And I remember my mum going, no, don't buy stuff online. And ever since then, I was like, this is the way of the future.
Yep.
And like I was talking to Joanne Eady the other day because she was concerned about the Canadian Hypnosis Conference. And I said to her, don't worry about it. I said, virtual conferences are fantastic, but it's still not going to be going to the actual atmosphere of the game. That's the difference here. So when it comes to the technology side, we can all connect one-on-one here. And that's where I think they're getting stuck. They're not getting that connection like they do inside the room. And that's
I
something
agree.
that
The
has to be
energy that
present
exists
for
there,
them.
the exchange of energy. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
also, you know why, and I think this is another thing, is that when I'm perhaps talking to people, like as I'm talking to you now,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I will intentionally look at the camera and
Yeah.
into the camera so that as far as you're concerned, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
I can't
Yep.
actually see you right now. You're in my peripheral vision to the
Yeah.
side here.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people might experience that as being a bit of a disconnect for them, in the sense that,
Yeah, there's that
I
block
have to imagine
there.
I'm looking at you instead of looking directly, because I'm looking at you. You can see that I'm looking to the side.
Yep,
So I think
yep.
that's a challenge people have, is that it's a paradigm shift in terms of how
Yeah,
they
yeah.
build that rapport and that connection with people.
And a lot of my students as well, I've told them to shift from the therapist side to the friend side, because when you're a friend, you don't have to look at your friend.
Mm.
You can connect with them in other ways, by the audio instead, by the feeling around you. You can still have that connection. But we absolutely have this divide from people my age and older. And then we've got this huge gap in the middle where, like, people got technology, they were raised with it. I didn't have a computer until I got into year 12. And that was only because we were basically being told we'd lose like 12% of our score or something in our VCE.
Mm-hmm.
But everything was handwritten until I got to year 12. And that was in 1999, which really wasn't that long ago. So, we've got this whole, like, people from me and older that never had the tech and had to survive off, we used to go to the Telstra box in Haywood and give 2 rings and hang up the phone and mum would know to come pick us up, sort of stuff. That was our tech. But then you've gone this whole, like, now you've got
that was probably more a tech hack, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Early tech hack.
Yeah, an early tech hack. But now we've got, like, our whole lives in the palm of our hands.
Yep.
And, there's that divide of, no, this thing is like bad. Like, someone will hack me. The FBI is watching me. That's, my personal stuff. And it's getting over that hurdle and just learning to trust the technology, trust the tech. Because guess what? It's going to have days where it disconnects. It's going to have days where it doesn't connect at all. But that's just the way it goes. So
it is part of it at the moment. And, that's the interesting thing about living in this COVID-19 world, is that it has forced many people outside of their comfort zones with technology.
Yes.
So that anyone who sat there saying, I don't do technology, you can't say that anymore. Not if you want to be a therapist. You have to be able to push through that comfort zone and embrace it. And what are we finding? We're finding there are a lot of people out there who actually love it.
Yeah.
Who are actually finding out new things about how they could be a therapist.
Yeah.
On a national or global scale. And the other thing I find is that they're having to go back to the basics again.
Yes.
Instead of relying upon, their favorite inductions that they might have done in the clinic, they sometimes have to think, how am I going to be innovative with this and adapt it into an online environment?
Yeah, and with the online environment, rapid inductions are probably not as effective as, they are in person, because we can do that pattern interrupt. However, like, progressive relaxation has come back in. So, or even stealth technique, where you just bore the crap out of someone until they just like,
I was talking about that with, I think it was Emma, actually, was talking about that.
Yeah. So stealth technique is fantastic online. Confusion technique, and absolutely fantastic as well. One of my particular favorites is counting down from 1 to 20, and you start up at 1, you concentrate, close your eyes, and 2, open your eyes, and you can't open them as much. 3, opening them less and less, and then by the time you get to 20, like a fractionation. By the time they get to 20, you like open your eyes, and they're like, nah, get stuffed. They're not doing it because they're not listening anymore. Like, the unconscious has kicked in, the conscious has gone on its little journey. So and that's where, like, the Elman's technique will come in fantastic as well. So it's really forcing us to tweak those systems and make them better than ever before, make them tangible. I think to
understand what each part of the process is actually doing.
Instead
of just looking at the script and following a series of words on a page, just looking at the script and going, what is this doing? What is each line prompting me to do, whether it's fixation or catalepsy or fractionation or any of those sort of things, which I think, again, is brilliant. It's going back to Hypnosis Basics 101.
Yes, and delving back into what it is that we actually know, like picking it all out and going, wow, I have all this great stuff. Like,
who doesn't love a refresher?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I love.
Do that.
So what's your inductions that you like the most?
Look, I actually, and it's funny because I've mentioned this gent quite often, but I'm a bit of a fan of Rob McNeely.
Yes,
and,
yes.
I had Rob for the first weekend of my diploma when I was studying my diploma. And I thought that I was confident then that I had this weekend with Rob, and it was like a whole new world opened up to me, because up until that point, even though I've been told it many times, I had always still had that part of me that thought that I was creating hypnosis for the other person. Whereas Rob's approach is powerful, yet gentle, and allow me to step back and actually just to observe the other person and to ratify and to,
mirror.
To allow that process for that person to naturally evolve. And so I'll quite often utilize Rob's approach, which is more focused around, well, what would you like? What do you like doing? What is it that you do? If you could do it every day. And tell me a little bit more about that. And then working with them to feed back and to vivify that experience. I think...
and it's a very down-to-earth approach too.
Yeah, everyone at some point should train with Rob. He's a very gentle, generous man.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And his approach is fantastic. It really is. So that's one I personally love. And also means that it helps to build a positive state. It also helps to build a resourceful state for people.
Yeah.
Because you're really asking to tap into what they like to do. And within that is often a hint or a part of the solution to whatever it is they're coming to see you about.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, because I know that I've sprung this on you.
You're right. I literally had no time to prepare whatsoever, and I just went, Wednesday.
And you know what? It wasn't about preparing, because I love it that I can just, approach people and say, I just want a couple of minutes of your time to just find out. What advice would you give to someone about this? And, we can share this with people. And, I'm really hoping that anyone that comes along listens to these videos that I'm creating and considers before they come in as to what approach they might like to practice, or how they might like to use this time on May 9th to be able to experiment with this more.
When it comes down to the crux of it, it's literally like a sentence. Laugh at yourself before anyone else does.
Yep.
So in other words, jump in and fuck it up.
The reason why I created this practice group was so that people could come and make mistakes.
Yeah, come and make mistakes.
This is the place to make mistakes. This is the place to try out something if you're not sure.
Yeah, and you're not going to bugger anything up. Worst case scenario, the client's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Look, I doubt that even
But don't even do that. Like,
you're preaching to the choir in these groups. So it's really going to be about what worked for you, what didn't work for you. What would you do differently? What did you like? That kind of feedback is really what's going to help each other grow.
Yeah, and some people don't do suggestibility tests or convincers or anything like that. And if you find that you've got that difficult client, then go back to your basics. Go back to the 101. Okay, so we're going to do the convincer first. Make sure you're right. Make sure you're open. Then we're going to do the deepener. Your eyes are glued shut. Your eye glued shut. Try and open your eyes right now. You'll find with a little bit of delight, you just cannot.
I do like James Tripp highly recommends people never do a convincer or a suggestibility test and suggest that it's hypnosis.
Exactly.
He says that, if anyone, if you're doing the finger thing and people know how those little muscles work and you're trying to pass it off as hypnosis, you're going to break rapport. It's going to go bad from there in.
I love how Dan Candell does it. He calls them concentration knowledge or something like that.
Yeah,
so it's not
James
a test.
Does similar.
Yeah,
James
it's not a
similar.
test.
Like, let's call it. It's more of a visualization. I can't remember the exact name.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact word for it either. But as soon as Dan said it, I'm like, I'm just going to call it. Let's just test that. Let's just go with your concentration levels. Let's find out how you go. And all of a sudden they're like, woo. So, or your arms out or whatever. Like it can all be done online. It doesn't need to be fancy. Just get out there and do it. And the thing is, if you stuff it up, your client's not going to know anyway.
No, exactly.
So just wing it. I mean, I don't know how many times I've jumped online. I've started on a new platform. Just this morning, I forgot to turn my microphone on and I was yabbering for like 10 minutes. And all of a sudden I'm like, good thing there was nobody watching me. Unmute. So, like even seasoned people like me who have been doing it for like the last 4 years, we still stuff it up. Like it happens. But just laugh at yourself before somebody else has a chance to, and then move on. Yeah. Just keep on going. So and that's where, like, I even had one of my students actually approach me in our brainstorming just last week, and she's always on Facebook Live, and she always jumps into the brainstorming and always talks very fluently. But when it came to actually her taking that first step with a client, that's where she melted down. And I said to her, I remember years ago when I first started playing 8-ball, and my biggest thing was to remember that the black ball is just any other ball. That's all it is. And I said to her, if I was to remove the word client and bring in the word friend, how has the session changed for you?
I think something that I think also people have this this self-expectation that they're there to fix, cure, whatever it is, the other person, to provoke their change.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're there to help guide them, but we
just
are
give
not
them
responsible
resources.
for their change. Yeah.
Yep.
They've got to do that. That's their work.
Yeah, they've got to do the work. So and people say, oh, the hypnosis doesn't work. The hypnosis always works. It's just a matter of whether they apply the resources. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
So it always works. So just jump in and do it. Like we need you guys. We need you. Please jump in. So yeah.